Warning: the following video contains foul language and is not suitable for children. Viewer discretion is advised. I remember when Netflix decided to reboot She-Ra, which is a pretty good show in my opinion, but it seemed like the first question on a lot of minds was, when is He-Man? I was fine with the He-Man reboot we got back in 2002 on Cartoon Network, and the new She-Ra seemed good enough to stand on its own. Yet here we are in 2021 with the release of Masters of the Universe Revelation, an animated miniseries written and directed by Kevin Smith. You might know Smith from his work on such films like Clerks, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Tusk, and Yoga Hosers? Whatever. I watched a fair amount of He-Man as a kid and had a few action figures. I enjoyed it as much as any boy would at the time, but I was more interested in Transformers, Spider-Man, or Ghostbusters personally. Since I'm not really the most die-hard He-Man lover, I like to think I'm more open to changes being made to the characters in the world. Yes, I was a child of the 1980s, but even I can admit the original He-Man series has not aged well. It's pretty much expected that if you're going to bring back Masters of the Universe to a modern audience, some creative liberties need to be taken. It's not a bad idea to make changes to the material where you need to, but if you go too far, you end up alienating old fans and confusing newcomers with little reason to care. Which is exactly why Revelation falls flat in my honest opinion. I'll start with the positives. The animation looks good, despite a few scenes here and there where characters look stiff. Early on, I thought the look of the characters in the animation reminded me of Netflix's own Castlevania series, which is no surprise since Masters and Castlevania were both animated by Powerhouse Studios. I loved the work they did with Castlevania, and they certainly put in the same effort with Masters of the Universe. The character designs very much evoke the original 1980s iteration of He-Man, and they look very solid. Later on, we get some new designs for Teela and Beastman, which were not bad in my opinion. Sound design and musical score is top-notch, so I have no complaints there. Masters of the Universe brings together a pretty big-name cast. You've got Mark Hamill as Skeletor, who gets a great performance as he hams it up.
I'm sorry, and you are? She asked me a question, Captain, so she deserves an answer. Look at my face, child! It has furnished for me a lonely life in which none would have me as a man.
He doesn't sound like the voice you expect out of Skeletor, but he doesn't have to. You've got talents like Kevin Conroy, Henry Rollins, Lena Headey, and even Alan Oppenheimer, who played the original Skeletor back in the 80s, but he's just Moss Man this time. Another big name is Sarah Michelle Gellar, who plays Teela, and she does a good job just like anyone else in the cast. I have problems with Teela as a character in this miniseries, but I have no issue with Gellar's performance. I also love many of the callbacks to some of the old action figures that didn't make it into the original series. They even make use of the Wonder Bread figure. You can't make a deeper pull than that. That, unfortunately, is where the positives end for me, as the writing and the execution really put me off with this series. The creative team goes way too far in trying to change things up and play with audience expectations. In many cases, it doesn't even feel like there's a good reason for the writing to diverge from the standard formula, other than doing it for the sake of changing things up. Kevin Smith also injects his brand of humor into the writing here and there, which might get a chuckle from some, but only took me out of whatever was going on at the moment. At the time this video is going up, it's been months since the series was released on Netflix, so if you want to see it for yourself, here is your spoiler warning, as I can't really give my thoughts on what bugged me about this series so much without getting into spoiler territory. In the first episode, both He-Man and Skeletor poof from existence after He-Man turns back into Prince Adam, sacrificing himself to keep the universe itself from being wiped out. Let me reiterate. Adam makes the mother of all sacrifices to save the entire universe and all life in it. Keep that in mind. Now that Teela has discovered Adam's secret identity, she sheds her tears for Adam and is forever grateful for his sacrifice. Oh wait, no, that's not what happens. She gets pissed about being lied to since her dad and even Orko knew Adam was He-Man, and she becomes a massive bitch. Through the entire series, she shows nothing but resentment towards Adam because of what? Because he kept a secret identity from her while he was saving lives, the world, and the freaking universe itself? In episode 5, Teela and the crew are reunited with Adam, and you'd think this would be a good chance to talk about their issues, right? Nope. Adam tries to talk to her, but she literally tells him,
Let me be angry.
I hate this trope so much. The idea that a character feels like they've been dealt the biggest betrayal by the hero simply because they kept a secret identity from them. Like, fuck them for coming up with excuses so they can save lives! It just feels like such a cliche and cheap way to drum up drama for no other reason than to create drama. There could have been so many routes they could have taken with this. Maybe they could have shown Tila actually feeling sad that Adam was gone, having made the ultimate sacrifice. Nope! The writers only wanted Tila to have one of two emotions in this series: stern and pissed. Cause she can't be badass if she shows sorrow for losing someone she cares about. Because being mad about, quote-unquote, being lied to takes so much priority. This is the same mistake made by the animated Invincible adaptation. Hero wants a relationship with a girl he likes, she gets pissed at him whenever he disappears, Hero finally reveals his secret, and she hates him for, quote-unquote, lying to her. Yeah, he did lie. So he could save lives, you bitch! If my wife came up to me and told me, sorry I've been absent, I know I've been making excuses, but the truth is, I'm Wonder Woman. Would I be mad? No! I'd probably feel like the luckiest dude in the world because my wife is freaking Wonder Woman. I would then forgive her for ever making excuses because I knew she had a good reason. That's the line you don't hear enough of. I'm sure you had a good reason to do what you did. The idea that a character understands why a heroic character had to keep secrets and to make excuses to protect who they care about and protect others. Tila knows firsthand what He-Man did. She knows that he was never selfish or arrogant. He was the hero, the good guy who used his immense power to keep people safe. But in her eyes, he's the biggest a-hole in the universe because she was lied to. Fuck, I hate this trope. The other big grievance I have with the story is how they very clearly want to make Tila the main hero instead of He-Man. Kevin Smith himself went on social media to say how he wouldn't make a story without He-Man and that people just need to be patient before bashing the series. I don't think he can say that when in episode 4 of this series, they very clearly show that Tila has some latent special power or talent of some kind. You don't do this kind of foreshadowing only to serve up some big swerve and go, gotcha, on the audience. If they did that, it would just be a useless build-up to serve no purpose other than to play with audience expectations. Also, considering the casting of Tila's VO, you don't bring in Buffy the Vampire Slayer only for her to be a sidekick. This whole thing of quote-unquote passing the torch that writers try to do when they want to replace a protagonist rarely ever works out, because they're doing just that, trying to replace a beloved character. Earlier I said I wasn't the biggest He-Man fan, but even I can't get behind this idea of replacing him. He is the main character, plain and simple. He's also a good hero. As Adam, he may be a bit selfish at times, but he does use the immense power he wields to do good and save people. He's likable, and while he may not be the only reason people care about Masters of the Universe as a series, he's one of the biggest draws and fans love him. It's not like there was even a justifiable story reason to do away with him. It's not like we saw Adam grow old and need to find a new heir or anything. At first he's gone because he sacrifices his own life to keep the whole universe from imploding. Then he manages to return from the afterlife only to be stabbed in a cheap death by Skeletor, who somehow has been hiding out in Evil Lynn's staff.
What?
This whole series seems to be about two things: playing with audience expectations and killing off major characters for shock value. Hey, Orko got good at magic! Now he's friggin' dead. While this series does a few things right, I feel like the cons outweigh its pros. The story, the writing, and the execution fall flat. It comes from a line of thinking that believes, quote, playing things too safe and simply giving the audience what they want would be too cliche. Earlier I mentioned that Masters of the Universe as a franchise could do with some updates to make it more appealing to a modern audience. But what you do not do is replace the primary hero, who is a beloved character, simply for the sake of doing so. There was potential here to make a really good first impression, but it just trips over its own feet and fails to give people what they want. I'll admit that maybe I could be wrong about the creative team's intentions of trying to replace He-Man. Judging this run of episodes on its own merits, though, I have to give this miniseries a 2 out of 5.